Thank you for listening to the BjjBrick Podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back to the BjjBrick Podcast. This is episode 271. This week we have an interview with Fabiana Borges, a black belt. She's training in San Antonio, Texas. Excited to talk to her. She's come up through the ranks, won a bunch of tournaments when she was younger. She just recently won Masters Worlds at lightweight, and she got second place in the absolute division. I'm always impressed by those lightweights that do well in the open weight class. Awesome interview talking with her. I'm here today joined with my brothers in podcasting, Gary Hall and Joe Thomas. Gentlemen, exchange some pleasantries, would you please?
We don't do that kind of stuff here, Byron.
That's about the long and short of it.
Yeah.
Well, I assume you guys are having great days.
We're always having a great day, especially when we're hanging out with you, Byron.
I was going to say, I just got done with open mat, so that's...
So Joe's tired.
Yeah, well, something like that. I'm beat up, but that's a good way to start your Saturday, man.
It's funny. I was just telling Byron I did open mat this morning, and I said the exact same thing. I'm beat up. I think I might need to take a week off. I haven't had any time off in a long time, and this last week I've just been a little sluggish. So maybe I need time off, do a little something else, and let my body recharge a little bit.
Got it. We talk about that during the interview, Gary. You're going to love it. Being
Awesome.
able to sustain your jiu-jitsu and long-term, stay on the mats. And you know what? If you need to take a week or so off, take a week or so off. It's not going to affect you in 10 years. If you got a tournament in a month, maybe that week off is after the tournament. But being able to stay happy and on the mat is the goal of a lot of us. It is one of our goals with the podcast, is to help keep you guys happy and on the mats. I'll have an audiobook that might help do that. It's 6 BJJ training games. So when you're rolling, open mat or just after class, you're doing some rolling. Typically you are playing one game, maybe two, if you're thinking about points. Maybe you're trying to win by points or submission. A lot of us just try to outwork or submit our opponent, our training partners. And that's the typical standard jiu-jitsu. Hey, let's roll. If I can catch you, great. If you catch me, that's fine. We're just working here. But with these 6 training games, it changes your goal. It might make you, try to throw the book at them, and you're gonna try to, just attack with everything you could think of, with really no regard to how likely it'll be to land or how strong the position is. And that kind of helps. The benefit of that game is it helps you be more familiar with your catalog of techniques, because you do know a lot of techniques. If you've been training for a year or two, you know a lot of things. But it's often hard to think of those. You just get side control and you say Kimura. You get side control, you get armbar. Well, there's a ton of stuff, but you forget. And so if you could work with somebody and do this, I call it the Nike method. You just do it. You just do it. If you see something, do it. And sure, you play a little bit more loosely. It's a little bit higher energy of a game, but it helps you maybe identify some areas that would surprise you. Oh, I actually landed that. I don't think I would. I don't get that. Or it just helps you expand your knowledge of moves to add a few more moves that you could do. And that's just one of the games. There's 6 of them. It's $5.99. That's less than $1 per game that I talk about. It is a little over an hour long, and the audiobook can be found in the show notes on BjjBrick.com or in your smartphone. If you pull up the notes, it's right there. There's a link. You can get to it. So check it out, and the money goes and helps support the show, keep the podcast going strong.
Yep, do yourself a favor and check it out. Put it on your phone, and you can check it out a little bit before each class and maybe pick a game to play. And I would suggest picking one game, though, and maybe playing it for a month or two and see if you get the benefits out of that. I've done I don't know what Byron calls it. I call it going left-handed, and I get made fun of every time I call it that. But, something like that for a month is where you really see the benefits. I don't know if they're so great after one class, but try and do something a little bit differently for a sustained period of time, and you'll see the benefits. So that would be my suggestion, but definitely check it out.
I call that one backwards grappler. You do things backwards. So if you go right, you go left. If you stand up, you stay low. I don't know. You change up what you're doing, and of course, it brings out a weaker part of your game. But you might discover some cool stuff.
That's the one that has done the best for me too. I really like the backwards grappling. It's helped my game tremendously.
I assume it might be going left-handed, but depends on what's normal
I'm
for you,
left-handed,
Gary.
so I call it right-handed.
Okay, everybody's normal is different.
And Gary's different is very different. So.
Much different.
Okay, guys. So this is usually when we talk about a life lesson, maybe something we've learned off the mats, and we bring it onto the mats. And every once in a while, we take it the opposite direction. And this week, that's where I'm going. I'm talking about something that I've learned on the mats, and maybe talking about taking it into your everyday life.
Kind of like a left-handed backwards style.
Left-handed backwards, upside down, something other than the norm.
Yeah, Nike, just do it.
Just do it. So we had open mat this morning, and Coach had to leave a little bit early. He had some family things going on, and as he walked out the door, he's like, have a good weekend, guys, and don't forget, it's Barrett's 14th birthday. We got a kid that's been training with us for a couple years, 14 years old today, and so as the coach walked out the door, we're all like, isn't it sort of a tradition to Shark Tank somebody on their birthday? So yeah, let's do that. So we take this 14-year-old kid he's a big solid kid. He's probably 5'8", 150 pounds. So he's not small by any means. So the first guy that rolls with him, and the timer's set for 6 minutes on and a 1 minute break. And we said, we'll just use that timer. We're going to roll through the breaks. So the first guy's going to roll with Barrett for 7 minutes, and then the next guy and the next guy and so on. And so the first guy up is Brandt, and he's a 280-pound purple belt. And he gives Barrett all he can handle, and plays top position pretty much the whole time and puts on the pressure, but can't get a tap against this kid. And then I go next, and I'm not as big as Brandt, but I'm a big guy, and I play top position pretty much the whole time. And I go for a north-south Kimura, but I can't quite put it on him. And so he's got 14 minutes in when I'm done. And the next guy rolls with is Todd. And Todd's about a 150-pound white belt that's been doing it for 6 months, and would be a good time for Barrett to take a break. But instead, after going 14 minutes with two large purple belts, Barrett proceeds to destroy Todd, taps him out a couple of times. And, we're all giving Todd a hard time. And Todd's like, hey, you guys are supposed to tire him out. You guys failed in your job. So while we're giving Todd a hard time, some people are joking around about, you just can't tire Barrett out. And the next guy up is Jose Lopez, and he's a 45-year-old retired Marine, purple belt, successful competitor in the local area. He's a tough guy, and he's like, yeah, I'll tire this kid out. So he goes up next, and he gets Barrett in one of the nastiest triangles I've seen in a long time. And, he's triangling Barrett from his back, and Barrett puts a foot up to try and post to get posture, and Jose snags that foot and brings it up by his head. So now he's got Barrett bent in half, and just, it's a nasty triangle. And he's got it locked on long enough that the rest of us are sitting around having a conversation about it. And we're like, at one point I said, face it, guys, every one of us sitting here, we would have tapped a long time ago. And everybody's like, yeah, you're right. And eventually Barrett pops out and ends up in top side control and finishes the round. I think Jose managed to reverse him and get top position again before the end of the round, but finishes that round. And then the next round he rolls against a 25-year-old blue belt and pretty much gives the blue belt all he can handle. And, tough kid, this guy, Barrett. But the life lesson, kind of going back to the triangle he was stuck in, I think a lot of times we allow the expectations of other people in the particular circumstances that we're in to dictate the outcome. It's easy to think I'm 14 and I'm rolling against this tough purple belt who's, bigger than me, older than me, more experienced than me. And I'm supposed to tap in this situation. So we do end up tapping. And the thing that I'd like to encourage people is to don't let other people's expectations dictate the outcome of your life. How many times, taking this off the mat, how many times as a guy, let's say you got out of high school, you go to community college, you're working your way through, you're working in restaurants, and you decide that you like working in restaurants. And when you're 22, 23 years old, you say, I've got a 5-year plan. By the time I'm 20 years old, I'm going to own my own restaurant. And immediately everybody starts saying, well, 90% of small businesses end up going bankrupt, and only 5% of small businesses are owned by people that started the business when they were less than 25. And you start hearing all these negative expectations, and oftentimes people allow those to influence the way they proceed, and they end up not doing what they set out to do. How many times do people get married and they hear, well, 90% of the people that get married before they're 20 are divorced by the time they're 30, or, you're from Ohio and he's from Kenya, and those kind of cultural differences don't bode well for your marriage, and the marriage ends up in divorce. And so if Barrett on the mat can defy expectations the way that he did, you can take that off the mat and do the same thing. So my life lesson I'm bringing today is do not let other people's expectations determine the outcome of your life.
That's awesome, and you had a great example to follow it up with there, Joe. And I was thinking on the mat, I've had the similar experience where I remember I was a purple belt rolling with a black belt that I knew but not real well, one that doesn't live here in town, and he would always tap me out. And I remember one day I thought, you know what, I think I can get to this round without getting tapped, and I did. And I was like, well, is that all I need to do is change my mindset about how fighting out of a tough spot is what I'm going to do, and sure I might get caught, but maybe I'll do a lot better. And I did experience that sort of thing, and maybe that's what's going on in the mindset of somebody who's really just hard to finish is they don't expect to be caught, and it just makes it much tougher. You have to set your own expectations, and Joe, I like that one.
Yeah, that one's great, Joe. Talking about the expectations too, Byron, you were talking about a black belt you rolled with, and that person would always beat you, and you changed your mindset. And sometimes I think too, we just look at people, think they're better than us. We kind of almost worship him, think that, hey, this guy's a blue belt or this guy's a black belt or whatever, that there's no way we can survive with this person. And Joe, Barrett's an inspiration to us all. I mean, a 14-year-old kid, 150 pounds. And Joe, when you were telling me that the first guy was 280 pounds, and then you look just like a bodybuilder, and you're 240 pounds of solid muscle. Like, I don't know how he made it past those first 2 rounds. I was expecting when you were saying that, how often I figured he was probably going to get tapped 4 or 5 times in each round. And, that kid's just, he's just grown. He's just a tough-minded guy. He's not going to, bow down because he's 14 years old and lighter. And he just, I like that. It's inspiring for me. Makes me think that, sometimes maybe my head's not right. And maybe that's, maybe this can, change my game a little bit.
Yeah, honestly, as many great matches as you see and great things you see in jiu-jitsu, this was one of the more inspiring and more impressive things I've seen in a long time, and it was pure and simple. A kid just going out there and doing his best. And, he's a humble kid. He's a good kid, and he's not really trying to prove anything to anybody. He just doesn't expect, that he's going to get beat. And it's pretty awesome to watch.
The only thing I didn't like about what you were talking about, because I know I'm going to get in trouble by one of our listeners who listens to us all the time. You talked about relationships. Somebody lives in Ohio. Somebody lives in Kenya. There's no way it's going to work. I know for a fact Shimani Mutambi from Kenya will call me and complain about this as soon as he hears it. So thank you, Joe, for getting me into a little bit of trouble.
Well, he shouldn't have married that girl from Ohio.
Well, it was a guy.
Well, each to their own, man. That's what I always say. Don't let other people's expectations.
There you go.
So, Shimani, we are sorry if you do get upset about that.
Well, let's do the quote of the day, because I got nothing to transition from that. Sun Tzu, The Art of War. And I think this will be a fun one to pull several quotes from, and because you can just read it, and it's chock full of stuff that has to do with competition and battling and strategic planning. Here it is. If ignorant of both your enemy and yourself, you are in certain peril. And I feel this most of all when I talk to somebody and let's just say I'm gonna coach them at a tournament. I'll say, what's your game plan? I'm gonna go out there and see what happens. Okay. You have literally no game plan, so that's ignorant of yourself. And then you could say, do you know anything about your opponent? Nope, don't have a clue. Well, this is like the third match of the day. You've probably had opportunity to watch 2 or maybe just 1, depending on if you got a bye or not. Matches. Didn't watch the match of the person before you. That's a lot of good things you could learn about your opponent during the time. Didn't happen, or maybe you've grappled with them in the past. You don't know. So there's no reason to be ignorant of yourself, because that's who you are. You're there all the time. You should know what you're good at. You should have some sort of a game plan. You should have a way to get it to your area of strength. If Joe is planning on Kimura-ing somebody from side control, he better have a good way to get to top position. He better have a good way to get to side control, and then the Kimura could happen. If every time Joe's on top, he gets swept, he could have the best Kimura from side control in the world. It's not going to ever happen. So be knowledgeable about your own game and be ready to put it to work. And then any additional knowledge about the other person, just like in a battle, any knowledge about the other location or your adversary is going to help you. You have to also be understanding that if you're up against some elite competitor or somebody who you feel is a lot better than you, sometimes that could work as a negative, as like, you're going to get triangled, and you go out there and you get triangled. Kind of like Joe was saying, know the expectations and don't fall into somebody's trap because you expect it. Everybody who fought Ronda Rousey expected to get armbarred, and a lot of them did. I wonder if any of them would have done better if they just went out there and just fought their fight first. But there's no reason to be ignorant of your own game plan. Make one and try to stick to it.
Yeah, I like this quote. I'm familiar with it. And the thing that I've always liked about it is that you approach it from 2 different directions, right? You want to know about your enemy or your opponent, and you want to know about yourself. And one of those things you don't always have control over, but one of them you absolutely have 100% control over. So yeah, there will be times when you compete against somebody that you've never heard of before. You can't find anything on YouTube. None of your friends know anything about him, but you always have control of knowing about yourself. And so it's really important to know where your weaknesses are, where your strengths are, how you get from a bad spot to a good spot. It's important to know yourself as far as how you deal with adversity, and where your breaking points are, and those kind of things too. And so you absolutely have 100% control over that. So if nothing else, focus on that to start with, and then get to know your opponents as they come.
Joe, great point there. Like Byron said, sometimes you may not know your opponent. You may be at a tournament and you could watch him for 3 or 4 matches and have that part. But like you said, Joe, you can control 100% of yourself. Byron, previously you were talking about Ronda Rousey. You were saying, people were going in to expect to get armbarred. And that takes me right back to Joe's on the mat lesson. It made me think about what we were talking about Barrett. That's kind of what I was thinking that I need in my mindset sometimes when I was rolling. I was just kind of using Barrett as inspiration. Maybe if they, didn't get so much of their enemy, Ronda Rousey, in their head and just said, hey, I'm going to go out and do the best I can and not worry about that. And it made me think back to, as you guys know, I like leg locks. But sometimes when I go against another person who likes leg locks, I stick away from leg locks because I don't know if my leg locks are better. I'm going to call it the Barrett's rule. That's my new nickname for it. I need to do the Barrett's rule and just, trust my one thing that I can control, like Joe said, the one part that I know about, and, just go with my strength in there. So I have learned a lesson from you both and Barrett today. So perfect.
Awesome. You're talking about everybody expected to get armbarred from Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey and Mike Tyson have a similarity in that when they were perceived to be undefeatable, they were. But once they got beat, or once there was a chink in the armor, then it was a whole completely different game. So that's an interesting point.
Yeah, and Gary, talking about his leg lock game, Gary's leg lock game is light years ahead of mine. And going back to the lesson of the week here, when Gary gets me entangled in a leg lock, I pretty much know I'm likely to get finished in a leg lock. I try to escape 1 or 2, but I don't have the advanced system in my head where I know how to get out of this one and be ahead of Gary on the next one. So eventually he catches me. He just catches up to me, and I can no longer escape. I just need to maybe just, like when we're entangled in our legs, I need to tell myself, I can get out of this, and I need to try to get out of it, which I always try to get out, but the back of my head knows I'm likely to get caught, and I think I could use that mind frame to maybe escape a little bit. I mean, I'm not adding technique, I'm just adding a different expectation, which could actually have a big impact like we were talking about today. This is a neat concept that we're getting into today.
I really think it is going to have a big impact. And, you know, it's funny, I just keep pulling stuff back from Barrett. And Byron, you remember back in the day rolling with D, the very first guy who started leg locks. And I remember I'd roll with him. I knew as soon as he got my leg, it was already in my head. It was over. When I knew I was rolling with him, I knew beforehand that I was going to get caught in a leg lock. And it almost just seemed like it just happened. And I remember a lot of people would all shy away from him. And so I'd try to roll every round with him because I thought he was so good and it helped my game. But I just remember at one point I was like, after being tapped out so many times, I just told myself, I was like, hey, I'm just going to go in there and I'm going to go offensive. I'm not just going to always try to be aware of my legs and try not to let him get my legs. I'm just going to go in and do my own game. And everything changed at that point. I started doing so much better and got more confidence. And then kind of like what you guys were saying earlier, I felt like I belonged. And once you feel like that, you do a lot better. And I think sometimes my head gets into my game and takes me down. So I am going to have to work on that.
Yep. Talking about a lot about expectations this first part of the episode here. Set your expectations high. Fabiana Borges has a great interview. Here we go. He is the most interesting grappler in the world.
He is such a polite driver, he always signals when he changes lanes. This often carries over to BJJ if he has been driving a lot. If you're careful to watch his left hand before he performs a sweep, you will see his fingers flick up or down to indicate which direction he is going to sweep. Just before he executes the sweep, he will check to make sure the mat is clear of other grapplers. He can sneak up on a ninja in daytime.
I don't always listen to podcasts, but when I do, I prefer the BjjBrick Podcast. Stay sweaty, my friends.
All right, my friends, I'm excited to bring Fabiana Borges to the BjjBrick Podcast. Fabiana, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be with you guys.
I'm excited to have you on the show. You've done a lot in the sport of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. If somebody hasn't heard of you yet, maybe they're new to Jiu-Jitsu, tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you started and where you're at now.
So I'm Fabiana Borges. I've been training for over almost 20 years. Next year going to be my 20th anniversary in Jiu-Jitsu. I started back in Brazil in a social project with kids that didn't have much money to train or to pay. So we started training together close to home. And I moved to U.S. 10 years ago. And now I'm in San Antonio training and teaching at Gracie, Barra, San Antonio, Texas. And soon, Gracie, Barra, Bernie. We are just opening our second location. So 2 locations in Texas.
Wow. you wrapped up almost 20-year history there. You've competed a whole lot, too. Tell us a little bit about your competition history. You started competing really pretty early on, and you found some success, and you competed all through the belt ranks and had a lot of success in Brazil and in the United States.
Yes, so I've been competing since pretty much my first year. I did I have 6 Brazilian nationals titles, and that was yellow belt, some orange belt, blue belt, some purple belt, and black belt too. So before I moved to the US, I competed a lot back in Brazil. I did some words. I have won the word as a blue belt, purple belt, brown belt in 2006. I believe I got third place. And then I came to the US competing in 2007. Then went back to Brazil and moved back to the US and stayed in 2008. I have some no-gi, PM's no-gi, 2009, I believe. I won that, and PM's with gi, 2009, 2010. And this year, I just got the World Master title. So that's my first year as a master. And I was pretty excited to be competing, move on to this new phase, which will be the master class.
That's really cool. You have a long history of competing. You started so young, and just carried on with it.
Yes.
While you're doing this, even as a kid and up through adulthood, any particular challenges that maybe a competition that was difficult that made you think about maybe not doing this anymore, or was there always a drive for it?
Well, not so much the tournaments. The tournament, winning or losing, never made me want to quit jiu-jitsu, but maybe the challenge growing up. I grew up in the favelas in Rio, so the challenge of getting to train, having money to pay transportation, having the money to pay for the entry of tournaments. Whenever I was 18, I had to decide if I wanted to keep on training or start college. So all those challenges made me think about it, if I should keep on training and pursue a career in jiu-jitsu, or should I just go to a normal life, being a normal person back in Brazil. But competing, no, I love competition. I do for myself. I like the improvement and the self-discovery you have with competition. So it never made me want to give up or stop. It actually keeping me driving and keeping me wanted to do more and get to know more about myself through competition.
You've done well in both gi and no gi. What's the key to that?
Train. I think training. I have more passion for gi than no gi, but I did some. I got some pretty good results on no gi once when I competed. I don't compete anymore no gi since my passion is not there. But anytime that I set up a goal for a tournament, I make sure I make a schedule, workout schedule. I have my time management to work, train, and make sure I rest well. So I have those 2 months, sometimes 3 months to prepare and be ready for that tournament. So training, and I believe training, time management, it's the key to be successful. And of course, the discipline and the consistent on your schedule, because sometimes we make a schedule, but we are not consistent with, and then that's when we fail. But being consistent on, okay, today I'm going to train, today I'm going to work out, and today I'm going to rest. So being consistent with that.
I want to get a little deeper into the idea of being consistent with a schedule. Do you look at a whole month or the time up to tournaments in 3 months and kind of make a schedule out of where you want to be, or do you plan it week by week, or how does that work, and what's it look like?
Usually I plan my weeks usually. So I run the school, so it's hard for me to plan like the whole month. So I go by week, but I know that I'm gonna train jiu-jitsu competition, train Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and Tuesdays and Thursdays I do my workout. Saturday and Sunday I do the open mats. So the resting would be more Sunday afternoon. Right now I feel that my body got used to that. I don't get as tired to teach classes, but my training mindset is good because I know I only have that 1 hour. So I don't want to waste the hour talking about anything else. So the students even know professor is on a competition mode because when I go Sundays, I'm like, don't ask me anything. I want to just train. And they kind of already know that that's 1 hour that I have only to train and not think about anything else. So to answer your question, yes, I go by week plan.
And you stick with the same week as the months go by, like the same plan. Just kind of, you said your body gets used to it.
Yes.
That's good. So the days that I think it was Tuesday or Thursdays, you're working out. Like, what does that mean? Like, what are you doing?
I do CrossFit. It's a kind of I like CrossFit because the gym I am at, so they have a good coaches. Some people are very I don't know how to say, skeptical about CrossFit, but I love the coaches that I am at. So each person have different body or different results. I used to do a lot of conditioning specific for Jiu-Jitsu, but where I am at, we don't have that. I haven't found that yet. So the CrossFit place let me modify some of the techniques. For example, I don't do burps. I do sprawls, or I don't do so much heavy weight. I do more explosive. So they are very flexible with me. That's why I like them, but that works for me very well. So I think each person should find what works for them and for their training and their goals.
That's interesting. Like, you talk about how you like the coaches, and they have basically changed some of what they're doing. Instead of doing the burpees, you're doing the sprawls to allow you to reach your goals, what you want to do. Your goal isn't to compete in CrossFit. Your goal is to do well on the mats. And so that's a good coach that says, okay, this student has a different goal. Let's help that person out.
Yes. And I found that if I do very, very heavy weights, my Jiu-Jitsu is slow. I'm slow on the mats because I'm sore. And I'm like, I don't want that. That's not my goal. I want to be quicker on the mat. I want to be somehow rested to keep training, because training is priority for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's good that you have those good coaches there that are adapting the plan to fit your needs.
Yes.
Fabiana, can you tell me a little about your grappling style, maybe some of your favorite techniques and what you like to do when you're on the mat?
I like playing Barra. Usually I like playing Barra, but it has changed a lot. And I will tell you that after I opened the gym, which is been 3 years, I'm playing more top position and more takedowns. I think because now I'm training with a lot of heavier guys, so it's hard for me to have them on top of me all the time. So I kind of pull guard or pull them to the bottom and go on top. So my top game got much, much better. And even some takedowns. I have some good people that are judo. They have some judo background and wrestling background. So my takedowns are improving a lot. But I still like bottom. If you ask me what's my comfort zone, I would tell you that the bottom is still my comfort zone.
And what kind of guard or techniques are you working from the bottom?
I like open guards and submissions. I would say arm bars. I love arm bars. Everybody that knows me knows that arm bar is my favorite. But open guard, I like playing open guard a lot.
Sometimes we will hear coaches say someone's a little bit smaller than everybody else, and so they tend to play bottom more often, but it's so much easier if that smaller person gets on top. besides getting better takedowns, like, is there certain things that people could work on specifically to help them be able to have the option to play on a top game? Because I know a lot of us get settled into certain areas and you end up playing, bottom game for many, many years.
Yeah, I think ankle picks work very well because you can fake the guard pull and go for ankle picks, or you can try your ankle picks, and if it doesn't work, you end up on the bottom anyway. So ankle picks, I like that to manage to stay on top. You are not so engaged to the person, and if it doesn't work out, you can disengage, or you can end up pulling guard, sit back and pull guard. So I think ankle picks and faking the guard pull, going for single leg ankle picks would be good for people that want to transit from bottom to top. Also, pulling guard and sweeping right away, I like that idea too. So you still work on your bottom, but if you don't want to work on so much takedowns, like judo takedowns, which I'm sorry if I offend anyone, but which I think you get hurt a lot doing takedowns. So you can avoid a little bit that and still going on top position.
I love those advice that you have. The ankle pick is very deceptive because I don't have a great ankle pick either. But if the person thinks I'm pulling guard, I can stand back up with their ankle and usually finish the takedown. And it's a lot different than if you shoot in for a double leg or something like that, and somebody sprawls on you, and then you're kind of underneath them. With that style of attack, if like I said, you likely will just end up with guard if it fails, and that's not so bad. And then the idea of instead of really pulling guard, you're basically pulling a sweep, or you're trying to pull a sweep. Like a lot of times when you pull guard, somebody's thinking, okay, they're going to guard. Actually, I'm already trying to sweep you to get on top, and that's a great way to just be a step ahead of somebody.
Yes.
So that's awesome to hear, and I think a lot of us could really use that and develop a better game to play top, because a lot of times it is easier if you're smaller to play on top, but it's hard to get there.
Yes. Arm drags, I like arm drags too. Crossing the arm and attacking the back. Whenever I train with heavier people, that's what I try to do, keeping my feet on their hip to push them away, and then with the speed we can move a little bit better. There are a lot of things out there you can do to, as a small person, to get on top, And once you're on top, stay on top. Don't lose that position.
You talked a little bit about avoiding injuries while standing up. Have you had to deal with many injuries in your career?
Think I got just one serious one, which I had my ACL and meniscus on my left knee. But in 20 years of Jiu-Jitsu, that's the only injury that I had, and I had to do surgery. So I think I'm pretty lucky.
Fabiana, besides luck, what has been an important factor in you not getting injured more than that? What would you think?
I would say lucky. Because, I train with everyone. It can be heavier, it can be smaller, it can be stronger. Other thing I think would help too is I try to have a good diet. I think that might help as well, of not eating so much bad. I think that helps a little bit. And I just got into the 30 group, so I think that that might change now. But I try to eat healthier and working out. I was working out and doing my homework at the CrossFit place or at the gym. I always work out, so I think that helps too.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your diet. If you're a couple weeks out from a tournament, what kind of foods are you eating, and what's your diet look like?
I avoid eating red meat, not because I stopped eating, and now it doesn't go well. I feel very tired when I eat red meat. So that's something that I don't eat as much. But as a good Brazilian, sometimes I do eat a little bit. But in general, I try to eat a lot of salad, a lot of greens, a lot of shakes. I don't eat so much bread or white bread. I avoid a lot of those things. But in general, I don't do anything like one specific diet. I don't like putting things in a box, because if I want to eat a pizza, I'm going to eat a pizza. If I want to eat a cake, I'm going to eat a cake. But in general, I try to eat very healthy. So, for example, if I wake up, my breakfast is going to be eggs and maybe some spinach. And I like the matcha tea instead of coffee. And then my lunch probably going to be a salad. And then dinner, maybe a shake. And in between that, I have some nuts and fruits. But on the weekends, if I have to eat the whole pizza, I'm going to eat the whole pizza.
You got, and maybe that's part of its success with competing for so long, is that the food side of it hasn't worn you out, as far as you're so strict with it that it takes a lot of the fun out of it. I know when I competed, I think that changing my diet and being so strict on myself took a lot of the fun and enjoyment out of the process.
Yes. And I like balance. I think life is about balance. So you have to balance out the eating. Unless, of course, I see some people, they have to lose weight, and then you have to do something more restrict. Or if you want some results as a bodybuilder or whatever, you have some other results. But I like being flexible and balanced on what I eat and what I do. Especially that right now, Jiu-Jitsu, it's my profession. So if I don't have the balance, I don't want to get worn out of something that I love to do it, So I like balance out. I like enjoying, okay, I'm going to have a good train today and be happy about it. And if I don't want to train, I'm not going to train and not feel guilt about it,
That's awesome. And I think that's great advice for the long-term success. We don't want listeners here to have a really great year and a half and do like extreme amount of jiu-jitsu and then burn out and not stick with it. We want people on the mats for 20 plus years. And you're a great example of that. And you cite balance of being is a big factor in that, and having balance in your life. So that's awesome to hear.
Yeah. And like you said, there's a lot of people start and they want that instant results. They want to get better in 6 months. So sometimes they train twice a day or every day, and they get burned out. And you cannot forget that Jiu-Jitsu is not 6 months, 1 year sport. It's a lifetime sport, There are people that train, they are older and they are training. My psychologist, Gracie, the head founder of Gracie, Barra, is 63, 64, and he's still training. So you can still train when you are older, but you must, I believe you must have the balance, Otherwise you get burned out. Yeah. At my school, I see that people coming in and, I want to train 2-3 times a day. And they don't last, because when you start to get injuries, you don't know much techniques, you start to use your power and you get injured. Two, when you have something happening on your life and you have to decrease that amount of training, you think you are not training enough. But sometimes there will be months or a year that you're going to train only 2 times a week. There are other years your life change a little bit. You might train 4 times a week. So you have to, and it comes back to the consistent, keep training, and you're going to get better. You're going to get the results that you want. Of course, there are those people that are athletes, and then their life is only training. And those people probably would train 2-3 times a day. And we will have physical therapy, we will have workout, we will have massage, but they do not have other jobs. So I think a lot of people start Jiu-Jitsu with the mentality that they're going to be like the athletes. And it's hard to be an athlete when you have another job.
Yeah, and let's talk about that a little bit with what you're up to. You started off competing a lot and all these big things. You're running a school now. What's that like, trying to run a school and compete in that sort of thing?
Yeah, I had to make that transition 3 years ago. I always was only competing and teaching. So I would when I was teaching, I would train as well. But I didn't have to worry about the bills. So now for 3 years, I've been not worried, but also managing the school. And as a school owner, there are a lot of things behind the doors that the students doesn't see. So it was a very, I would say, mostly mental change for me to accept that I wasn't going to train as much. And that's when the time management and the commitment to stay with my schedule came in, and took me a while to shift from being an athlete, only exclusively athlete, to school owner and being an athlete for passion, because I compete for passion. I love the competition. So it took me a while to adjust, but I think on this third year, I'm getting better on that. I'm not being hard on myself. For example, if I work out Tuesday and then Thursday there is a good training at night, I have to tell myself I'm not going to train. Otherwise, I'll be tired for my training on the next day. So that mental change, that mental talk, I had to do it, and it's working right now. And I'm being able to compete. This year I did very major tournaments. I did the European Master. I won the open class. I did the PMs. I won my weight and open class. I did the words, and I won my division and second place on the open class. So that mental change helped me a lot.
Yeah, just I got to know what are some of your strategies and how do they change when you compete in the open class division?
Open class for me is actually much more fun than my weight division. So I go without any responsibility. Like, I go just for the fun of it. And I think when you are more relaxed, you do better. So on my division, usually I'm harder on myself. Like, no, let's go. You got this. And when it's open, it's like, just have fun, do what you know, and have fun,
Yeah, it's basically the only thing that really changes is you're out there and enjoying the process a little bit differently, and there's less stress about your performance, and you seem to perform pretty well at that.
Yeah, much less stress.
But you do perform well with the stress, also. So yeah, that's interesting. Tell me a little about running a school and what that's like.
That's been fun. It's been a very fun journey. I was very concerned before I had the gym because I was afraid of prejudgment of I was afraid if a guy would come in and seeing a female instructor, he would want to train and learn from a female instructor. But I learned that they do, and some of them even prefer that, because I think as a female we have a different view, we move different, we teach differently, I think. Of course, they're not generalizing everything, but there are many guys that have that small person game. But as a woman, I was afraid that if my school was going to be successful. And then after a year, I was like, yeah, that's going to work. And everything went fine. Nowadays, I have over 200 students at my gym. I have a world champion. A lot of guys, they get great results on the tournaments, and big guys, you know. And I heard once like, oh, you won't have small guys training at your gym. And nowadays I see, I'm like, no, I have all of them. I have bigger, I have higher belts that come up to my school because it's a female teaching. So I have some brown belts that came because it was a female teaching, some purple belts, blue belts, and people that I'm building them up, you know. So I have bigger, small, ladies, kids, teens, everyone's teaching, is training here.
What were some of the things you had to handle that first year and get that success? Because it sounds like after the first year, you felt like you were good to go. Tell me a little bit about that first year and the struggles.
The first year, I think it was more the struggle of me conciliating managing the school, and living.
Okay, that balance.
That balance, yeah. I had to like redo what I thought was balance, you know. It was much more responsibility of me training with bigger guys and teaching and doing all, and like I said, having a life. So that first year was more about that adjustment and learning how to deal with people. I think the school is more about dealing with people than anything else, you know, dealing with different people, different matters, different problems. But I'm so lucky that I'm blessed. I'm very blessed that our school have so many families and amazing families that it makes the school the best I ever been. And I taught classes in many schools, but here we have an amazing group of people that are always helping, and families, and I couldn't be more happy with the results.
So looking back at your history, you know, you had some struggles as a kid, either getting to class and training or having, you know, money for tournaments, that sort of thing. Do you ever see that with any of the kids or the students that you're training?
Well, here in San Antonio, the area that I'm in, we don't have much of people or kids that are less privileged. Here it's a very nice area, but we do have a student. He used to be with us, and he was from a foster house, so he wanted to compete, and of course we would help him as a gym to get him to his tournaments. But I also have families that sometimes they come in and say things are getting hard, they need to cancel the kids' membership, and I see the kids have a big passion for Jiu-Jitsu, so we give some scholarship for those kids. We have one or two families that they are on this situation in my school. So anytime that I see somebody struggling, my heart goes there, and I usually help with scholarship for the gym.
Yeah, that makes the difference between. It's great that you do that, but it makes it less of like a business and more of a family or like a team atmosphere. I don't know. You kind of sometimes just feel it. Like these people are more of a family than just people that are in a business or in that sort of relationship. So
yes, and people sense that when a school is only about money. Of course, we do need the money to keep running the school, to keep having everything provided to others. But if we can help, we're gonna help.
Yeah, that's great. And now, you being a female owner of a gym, you have your own perspective, and I'm sure you have a great program for women. But if somebody is a male instructor, has their own gym, Any advice you have for them to develop a good female program?
I would do a class only for ladies, even though it's a guy teaching, but and I wouldn't call a ladies class or jiu-jitsu class. Call something that's more welcome, like self-defense or ladies club or something like that, and then do the transition slowly. I have a class here at my gym, and it's the ladies self-defense class, and a lot of these ladies a lot of my ladies started on the ladies self-defense, and they asked to do the transition to the co-ed class. So it's something that's coming from them, and it's naturally, on the ladies class, we work more self-defense, we work more fitness, and then soon they're like, okay, I need something more. I want something more challenge. And they go for the co-ed class, which the co-ed class, we have a ton of girls, and they still feel like welcome. Ladies, usually I partner up the ladies with ladies, but they when we do rotation drills or rotation specific training, they train with guys too. And the guys are very helpful with the girls, very respectful with the girls. So I would say have a ladies only, even though if you can only do one time a week, do that and welcome ladies from your community and do special classes for them and try to build up the ladies program at your school.
Yeah.
And be patient.
Yeah.
Be patient. I think teaching females are a little bit different, but it's very rewarding. They are very loyal to you and thankful to you.
Yeah, and also patience with the program. You may not have a packed house the first several weeks or months. It might take a little while to grow, but it will be worth it in the long run.
And also, we cannot forget, what I see is a lot of times when there is a life change, ladies are the ones that have to kind of give up on something. If a couple gonna move, most of the times, not all the times, it's the lady that gonna decide she's gonna follow the husband or the boyfriend. If you are having kids, it's also the lady that will have to stop jiu-jitsu. So you have to be, we are back to consistent. You have to be consistent, even if it's 1, 2, 3 girls. And later on, they're going to start to build up and grow the program.
Yeah, that's great advice for anybody who's trying to develop a program. Let's look at it from the other direction, Fabiana. If somebody wants to do jiu-jitsu and she's looking at a school that doesn't have a women's program at all, any advice for her starting out and just going right into the co-ed class where she may be the only female there?
Yeah, I would try. A lot of schools offer the trial class. And try. If there are 5 schools at your city, try, or around you, try all 5 schools. Because jiu-jitsu, you're gonna put a lot of time and you're gonna be a lot of hours inside a gym with the people you're gonna train with. So if you do not feel welcome or you don't feel a good vibe, that gym is not gonna be good for you. So try each gym, talk to people that are there, and see which one fits your needs better and fits your happiness better, But try, talk to the instructor, and put yourself out there. I feel a lot of ladies, sometimes they are afraid to go because they overthink. They think the gym is too much of an MMA gym or something too big. And then when they go there, they're like, oh, it wasn't that bad. So just go and try.
Yeah, and I would even say when you're trying the different gyms, don't be gravitating too strongly towards just the rank of a belt. If there's a gym that is being taught by a black belt, that's great. If there's a gym that's being taught by a purple belt and you go in there and you feel very welcomed and everybody is fun to train with and you feel like you're learning well there, that might be a better gym than just a black belt who kind of ignored you or made you feel like you weren't as important as a person there. So don't just rely on like belt rank or anything like that. Use your gut when you're picking a gym.
Yes.
That could be for anybody.
Yes, I totally agree with you. There are many purple belts out there putting more passion on teaching than black belts. So I totally agree with you on that.
Fabiana, you started competing so young. I think that's great, and I can tell that it's kind of affected you your entire life. If somebody wants to compete and they're not, 11 or 12, like adults here, what advice do you have to those students of yours that are going to compete for the first time?
Do not put too much pressure on yourself. Go for fun. Go for the feeling. Go for the self-discoverment you're going to have. Of course, we all want the gold medal, but if you put so much pressure on the gold medal, sometimes it's not fun, So go have fun, feel the feeling, because tournaments, the feelings change. You are not a person, So go for your first time, see what it is, what it's about, and then you're going to see, okay, I like this feeling. I want to keep on doing. And you go for the second one, you go for the third one. And, but of course, train. You got to train. If you commit to something, you got to go there, train at least, I would say 3 times a week at least, if you're going to compete. 2 times is okay, but 3 times is much better. More than that's perfect. And train and go for the first one, go for the feeling, because there's so much going on in your mind. There's so much going on around you that you don't know the person that's there. Maybe you're going to be a monster going into the mat. Maybe you're going to shut down. So go for the feeling.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I think anybody could take that, not just your first tournament, but, if you're putting too much pressure on yourself. You talked about, sustainability and being able to do this for a long time and that balance.
Yes.
I'm always interested because everybody has a different journey, and I think a blue belt a lot of times is a difficult belt. What were you like as a blue belt, and what was going on back in those days?
My gosh, it's been so long. Blue belt. As a blue belt, I like training hard. I would cry on the mat because I was upset if I would tap. So I put a lot of pressure on myself. But I knew that if I cry on the mats, on tournaments, I would win. Every time I cry on the mats on tournament, I would win, because I'm like, okay, you are giving that 110%. As a blue belt, I think I train hard. I like training hard.
Did the emotion change as you got more experience on the mats? Or
no. Nowadays, I don't cry, but I remember as a black belt, I would cry still. I remember once training at the headquarters at Gracie Barra with the top-notch black belts, and one of them, Otávio Souza, swept me. And I started crying. I'm like, I'm so bad. But come on. So Otávio Souza sweeping you. Why are you crying? But I had those feelings still. I would have those feelings. Nowadays, not so much. Nowadays, it's more like if I follow my schedule and I train well, I know I'm going to do well. Because I know I'm putting the time, I'm sacrificing other things to do a tournament. But I don't cry anymore.
That's interesting, the confidence you have in your schedule. And that could only really be done by competing a lot and finding out what works for you. somebody could adopt your same schedule, and it may not work for them. It may work great, but as you compete more and more, you kind of tweak what's going on, and as things change for you as well. And sticking to that schedule and training like you do, I think gives you a tremendous confidence, and it really helps you out. And I think we could all learn from that.
Yes. Just putting the schedule work for you. I know some people, they sometimes wake up 5 a.m. and they go to the gym and they go train. That one wouldn't work for me, but whatever works for you, and make your mind strong. Okay, I'm putting the time. Then do it. It's a lot of, like I said, competition. It's a lot of self-discovery. You gotta know about yourself.
Fabiana, looking back at when you started your school, if you can go back and give yourself some advice or some words of wisdom, what would you say?
I would have opened before. I wouldn't be afraid. Yeah, I wouldn't be afraid to open. I would be okay. This is gonna be successful.
Is the business side harder than the jiu-jitsu side?
Oh yeah. Like some days I'm like, I just want to train. I just want to be a student. Business, it's hard. I really admire who can do business, because business, it's hard, very hard. But I'm thankful that I'm on an organization that take care of us on that side, because a lot of people, they are athletes, and then when they think, okay, I'm going to open my gym, and they think opening a gym is just about teaching, and it's not just about teaching. So if you don't have a good support, as I have, Gracie Barra gives me a very amazing support, it's hard to keep on going. You're gonna be bumping on the walls or a lot, and learning on your own. So I'm very thankful. A lot of part of my success as a school owner, I am thankful for Gracie Barra.
Yeah, so they're not just helping you with like set a curriculum and I don't know, like technique wise. There's somebody to talk to if you have business questions, or they'll help you with your online stuff and that sort of thing as well.
Yes, the network we have with people and inside the school, the support they give to us, any question, can be as silly as you think the question it is. You are open to ask, and there will be somebody that they're going to help you. And the whole models I have, Professor Draculino, Professor Marcio Feitosa, Professor Flávio Almeida, all of them help me so much. So it's good to have them.
Wow, it's great you have that support there. And so you would have said open up earlier. How early would that have been? Like when do you think you were ready to open a school and you didn't do it?
Probably 1-2 years before. Okay. Yeah, not so early, but 1-2 years. I wouldn't be afraid to open. But that's the new. Everything that it's new for you, you're afraid of. I wouldn't be so afraid. Okay, I wouldn't put so much thought in like, oh, is this school gonna be good or not? I would just like, okay, let's do it. But it's good to have the fear, so you cover yourself a little bit and you protect yourself a little bit.
Fabiana, I'm gonna ask you kind of a different question. Give yourself a compliment as a coach. What do you do well as a coach?
I'm very patient, and that comes from my students.
So what would be an example of that?
For example, if somebody is not getting a technique, I will try to find their way of getting the technique, because each person learns differently. Some people learn by seeing, some people learn by feeling, by doing. So I try to find their way of learning. So I try to see that, okay, do you want to see it? Do you want me tell you the steps and you write down? So I'm pretty patient teaching. I love teaching, so it's easier for me.
Yeah. It sounds like part of your patience is being willing to change what you're trying to change the message to get the same change the delivery, I guess, to get the same message across. So you might yeah because we don't all learn the same way.
No, we don't, and some coaches don't understand that, and it's okay, But I'm lucky I understand that, and that I try to have everybody getting the message.
Wow, that's great. And who doesn't want a coach that's patient in such a technical sport like jiu-jitsu where details matter,
Yeah.
having a patient coach is important. So that's one quality. Coaches out there, if you feel like I could be more patient, take a little more time, maybe show it a different way. Instead of having the two students, arm bar like this and move your hips like this, hop on the mat and say, let me show you. Or arm bar me and I'll help you move your hips the right way. And maybe that person will feel the difference that way. And it does make a big difference because the same person is going to be doing arm bars in 15 years. You might as well teach them right the first time.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I've had some patient coaches, and I've definitely experienced coaches that weren't all that patient, and it's nice to learn from a patient person. So that's a great thing that you have, a great trait.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to train with you, where could they go?
I'm located in San Antonio, Texas, Gracie, Barra, San Antonio, and now we are opening a second location, Gracie, Barra, Bernie. So I will be teaching on those two schools along with some of my coaches, and those are the two locations that I'm the head instructor of. But sometimes I go to seminars. I'm going to a seminar right now at Gracie Barra, Edmont in Canada. If I'm around, you guys can come learn, train.
That's awesome. Is there a best website to go to or any social media you recommend?
You can go to my social media, F Borges Jiu-Jitsu. That's the Instagram or Facebook. Also, Gracie Barra. If you go to Gracie Barra San Antonio, you can find us, or you can find me online too.
And also, I'll put links to that in the show notes. You can go find it through there as well. So, Fabiana, it's been great talking with you. I learned a lot, and it's been nice getting to know you.
Thank you. Thanks so much. It was a very pleasant talk. I hope I help a lot of people to getting their fear out, to step on the mats and helping them with their jiu-jitsu journey.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Fabiana, for hopping on the show with me and doing the interview. It's great to learn from you. Go train with you if you're in the area of San Antonio, and you get that great mat time. Learned a lot from you today, so thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely. Anybody listening in San Antonio thinking about training, perfect school to go to. Check out her school if you're vacationing in the area, which is a nice area to go to take a vacation. Hit up her school and have some fun.
Article this week, successhealthlifestyle.com. That's kind of a mouthful in the name of the website, but that's what we're at here. The article is titled 8 Health and Fitness Benefits of Jiu-Jitsu. And I'll put a link in the show notes so you can find it easily. And we don't need to cover all 8 of these, but it covers a lot of different things. I think it's important to remember sometimes, especially if you're a little frustrated with how your jiu-jitsu is going. Maybe you feel like I haven't gotten any better in the past several months, or maybe I'm getting beat by people who I used to beat. Like, that all happens to basically everybody on the mat. But while you're training and on the mat, so many other good things are happening that don't just get frustrated with how your jiu-jitsu is going. Remember the small other things that's going for you as well, and there's a lot of other benefits. The first one they have here is an aerobic workout, and that makes you a more healthy person. I'm so glad that jiu-jitsu is a fun activity and it helps you get in great shape. If the workout didn't exist in jiu-jitsu, I would still do it. If somehow we did this same activity that I thought was blast, but you got zero aerobic workout out of this, I would still do it, but I wouldn't get that benefit, which I would either have to go find somewhere else, or I would not do it. And I think we're all fortunate to find something that we both enjoy and is great for the heart and lungs. So remember that. Hey, at least if you had a rough day on the mat, at least you got a good workout in.
Yeah, that's a good point. One thing that I've enjoyed about this article is I've been reviewing and dissecting it over the last couple days. Wait, no, that's not the way it goes. Byron sent us the show notes an hour before the show, and I started reading this 5 minutes before the show. But one thing that I do appreciate about it is, like point number 2, it says better flexibility. And the point isn't that you're going to become some super flexible yoga master, but you will be better than you would be without jiu-jitsu. And especially when it comes to flexibility, I don't know what it is about my body, but if I don't do something like jiu-jitsu and work on my flexibility, I literally have a hard time bending over and touching my shins, let alone my toes. And as you get older in life, that lack of flexibility can really become a problem. So for me, being involved in an activity that helps with my range of motion and my flexibility as I'm into my 50s is a great thing. And so, yeah, it's not that you'll be super flexible or any of these other points in the article. He's not approaching it from the standpoint that all of a sudden you're going to be a master at these things, but you'll be better than you would be without jiu-jitsu. So when it comes to flexibility specifically, that's one of the main benefits that I appreciate about jiu-jitsu.
Joe, that's also one that's helped me a lot. I used to just think flexibility was touching your toes, which I've never been very good at. But boy, my hips have gotten much more flexible, back, just range of motion. It's really helped me. Also, I want to mention that I was feeling a little terrible there for a second, Joe, when you said you've been dissecting this article for a couple of weeks. You kind of fooled me. I was like, man, what an overachiever, because I just started 5 minutes before the show. So I did feel a little bit better, because when you brought that on, I was feeling terrible, and it kind of increased my stress level. And one thing I love about jiu-jitsu is point number 3, it's a stress reducer. And, I love the aerobics like Byron was talking about. I love the flexibility. But I will tell you, my main thing I like about jiu-jitsu is it reduces my stress. And normally I go to jiu-jitsu after work. And, work does lead to some stress in my life. And no matter what has happened during my day, as soon as I get into the gym, and it even starts before I get on the mat and I have to learn, just the minute you step in the gym or, you're around your buddies, they're all asking you how your day went. Did you watch the UFC last night? Did you, do this, do that? All of a sudden, you just get a smile on your face. You forget about anything that happened at work. You then spend, 2 hours on the mat. You forget about anything that happened at work. You leave jiu-jitsu, you're exhausted. You increased your heart rate. You worked on your flexibility. You worked on your strength. And when you go home, none of that stuff is in your mind. You're going over, replaying everything you did during the day, or you may even be laughing at some funny joke that somebody told in class. But I really love the stress reducing part of jiu-jitsu.
Another one that they mention here is to fight mental illness. And I would even change that slightly. I mean, he does make great things. Like, don't use this as, stop going to professional help if you get professional help. But it could be a supplement. Basically, any fitness can help you perform better mentally. Instead of fighting mental illness, I'd say be stronger with your mental health. We're not all fighting mental illnesses. Anybody can have like a bad day or a bad week and not actually be depressed. But I do think that in jiu-jitsu, it does kind of lift us up. Part of it is you're out there exercising. Exercise helps with your mental health. Part of it is you're around people who actually care about you. You should be. If you're training at a gym that nobody likes you or nobody cares about you,
you're at the wrong gym.
Yeah, at bare minimum, you're a customer. The coach should care about you. Like, that's part of their job. But hopefully you have a great environment with a great team, and everybody is on the same team, because you literally are. But everybody wants you to do well. And just being around that is so healthy compared to at work. at work you might be competing with somebody for the next promotion, or you get the big client and that sort of thing. I don't know, but a lot of times work environments are more competitive than they should be. Maybe the environment at home isn't all that healthy either. But you come to jiu-jitsu, you're surrounded by people who are on your team and are going for you. And I think that helps us mentally get ready for the rest of the world.
Yeah, I'm not a mental health professional, but I know that there are some things that help people that are struggling. One of them would be having some sort of routine in your life. And like, I go to class Tuesday, Thursday, and open mat on Saturday. That gives you a little bit of routine. One of them is things you look forward to. And, I see my friends Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. That gives you something you look forward to. A support group is important if you're struggling with mental health issues. And like Byron said, you'll develop a support group at jiu-jitsu. Improving your physical fitness level, your health, getting some exercise. Those are all things that help when you're struggling with mental health issues. And you can find some of those things, golfing or lifting weights or doing other exercise type activities. They're good, but jiu-jitsu is a little bit unique, I think, in that it offers so many of those benefits. So again, like Byron said, if you're on medication or seeking professional help or whatever, don't discontinue that. But adding jiu-jitsu could be a great supplement to what you're already doing.
And I'd like to add one more point here. We'll talk about number 7, better sleep. And I guess that can go to help number 5 there too, fight mental illness. When you're sleeping better, your day's going to be better. But one thing, we can go back to what I was talking about, stress reducer. Before I was doing jiu-jitsu, I would, have some stress at work. I would come home and who knows what happened at home, but I'd be trying to sleep at night. And, I would just sit there and think about what happened during the day. And normally it was bringing up the bad parts that happened during work. Jiu-jitsu, like I said, I can even have a terrible day, but when I start going to bed, jiu-jitsu runs through my mind. It kind of puts me at ease. It allows me to just get to sleep. But while I lay down in bed, it's kind of weird, and I don't know who else does this, but I just start thinking of, combinations, techniques, escapes. Maybe I could have put my hand here. Maybe I could have done this, but it just winds me down for the day. And what a better way to, go to sleep than thinking about jiu-jitsu. So it's definitely helped me get better sleep.
Yep. And the last point is you will be happier. And I've said time and time again, if jiu-jitsu is not making you happier, it's not jiu-jitsu's fault. You're not doing jiu-jitsu right. If you're doing jiu-jitsu right, it should make you happier. Now, if you're overly focused on the next belt, or you're overly focused on beating your friend that you do jiu-jitsu with and you've been doing it longer, you should be able to beat him. If those things become your focus, then it might be a little frustrating and not necessarily make you happy. But if you're doing it right, jiu-jitsu should make you happier. You should be in better health. You should be surrounded by good friends, have things to look forward to every week. I don't see, maybe I'm biased, but I don't see how jiu-jitsu couldn't make you happier.
Yeah. Joe, that's an awesome point, and it kind of reminds me of something that came up to me this week. I rolled with a couple of my buddies, and one of my buddies sent me a text. He's like, hey, I had a good time tonight. And he finished off the text was, I don't always look forward to coming to jiu-jitsu, but I had a good time tonight. And I'm reading the text, and I was like, man, I don't like that text. I started thinking about it. I was like, if you're not enjoying jiu-jitsu, why are you doing it? And then I was thinking, maybe there's something I can do to make that person enjoy jiu-jitsu. So, I had a little talk with that person. I was like, hey, what did you mean by this text? Is there something I can do to make jiu-jitsu more enjoyable for you? I want to keep you doing jiu-jitsu. Is it something like that? And I guess it was a little misconstrued. He really loves jiu-jitsu, but he's got some outside pressures that are kind of digging into whether or not, he's getting a little pressure when he trains to be away from the family. And so I was just so, but I was just so worried that he didn't enjoy jiu-jitsu, and I wanted to do anything possible to make this person enjoy it more. And it goes back to, like you were talking about, training partners. And, we want to Byron, you were talking about you're at the wrong gym if you're not happy, or that was you, Joe, somebody, but we should be happy. And your training partners can uplift you. And then even when this person was telling me about the stuff going on at home, hey, what can I do to help? Those are the first things that come out of our mouth. We want to help each other out. It's like maybe instead of training 3 days a week, you only train 2 days a week to make your spouse a little more happy. Would that help, or could we change times, or what? I'm willing to do anything to keep you in this sport so you're having fun.
Gary, great advice, man, and consider you such a great teammate. And but you got to follow the meatloaf rule on this one. He would do anything for jiu-jitsu, but he wouldn't do that. It kind of leaves it open to having a limit, Gary. You got to have limits, man. We'll put a link to the article in the show notes. Check it out. We didn't cover all the things. It was written by staff. That being said, hey, if you've written an article on a website and it's jiu-jitsu related or even just sports related and think it would be good for the podcast, send it to us at BjjBrick@gmail.com, and we'd love to tackle it on the show and discuss it and get you a little bit of increased traffic, perhaps. So if you have a blog or website and you listen to the show, we'd be more than happy to help you along with that. Help each other, because we're always looking for great content, and if you're providing that, that'd be awesome as well.
If you don't have a blog or website and you've not written an article, but you have an interesting story to tell, we'd be interested in that as well. I would really love to hear from some of our listeners, especially if maybe you do jiu-jitsu as a family and this activity has changed your lives in some way or added value to your family dynamic. I'd love to hear it. And if writing an article is intimidating, just think of it as a small essay or a blog post. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be complicated. And send it our way, and we'd love to talk about it.
The crazy thing is we're talking about, writing an article and sending it to us. That is actually how we met Joe. Joe was listening, heard us say, hey, if you get an article, send it our way. Joe sent it our way. The rest is history, and now Joe is famous.
Yeah, so send us an article, and this could become a 4-person show.
Well, we actually do have a English lady who tried to join the show today.
Actually, we have to maintain 3. We'll do the awkward voting off of somebody, and it looks like every time you guys are going to team up and vote me out. But
we can't put you out. You're the originator of the BjjBrick.
I thought you were going to say the better looking of the people.
Yeah. Well, I do think you're pretty hot there, Byron. But nothing like those college guys you were talking about from last week.
Oh, you remembered that? We kind of talked about our social media a little bit. We'd like to see you guys on those things, YouTube, Facebook, or email. Those are all fun ways to interact with you guys. Definitely send us questions. We're always looking for questions for the first episode or the extra episode that we do every month. Those are good to have kind of in the bank. I want to give a quick shout out to some of our Patreon supporters. Adam, Ryan, and Dennis have been 3 of our loyal Patreon supporters for quite a while. So thank you for your continued support. It means a lot to us, and it's helping the show grow and become bigger and better. What Adam, Ryan, and Dennis have done is they said, hey, I like the show, I like the podcast. Let's support it like $1 or $2 or $3 or whatever they want to do per episode. And at the end of the month, you send us that support. It's all automated through credit cards and that sort of thing. And it really adds up and really helps us out quite a bit. So thank you so much, guys. And what we do as a token of our appreciation is we mail you out a 5-inch BjjBrick gi patch, and we throw a sticker in there for the BjjBrick podcast. You can put the sticker wherever you want. That doesn't break any sort of laws. So, I can't encourage vandalism with a sticker. But Joe and Gary might have done that a time or 2.
3 or 4 times.
Vandalize a sticker? Yeah, I've got one sewed on every pair of jeans I own. Sometimes you're trying to do karate kick or something, you split the crotch out, you need to put a patch in there. So
that goes back to that old flexibility you have, Joe.
That's right. I might be developing a little bit, but my jeans aren't.
Yeah. Joe has, if you're in a similar situation where you have worn out the crotch completely in your pants, the gi patch probably would help with that.
And I would probably instead of getting the small gi patch, get the bigger gi patch. for the crotch.
Well, not everybody needs the bigger gi patch, Gary.
Well, I guess I'm just thinking about myself.
Okay, yeah. Tell us another story, Pinocchio.
Guys, next week is the last episode of the month, and we do a topic episode on the last episode of the month. So it's going to be us, and we're going to be discussing, and this is, the guys don't know this because I just wrote it down a minute ago, growing your local jiu-jitsu. I think this is going to be a great topic because there's nowhere more important to grow jiu-jitsu than where you live. And I have a lot of ideas. I'm sure the guys do as well. You got a week to think about it, and we'll come back and talk about it.
Joe and I will think about it 5 minutes before the show starts, as usual.
I'll have a list of bullet points.
Yeah, no reason to tell us now.
Yeah, just send us an email right before we go. We'll forget about this, and Joe will start hearing voices in his head like always.
You guys are managing my expectations. That's what you're doing. I like that.
Perfect. Yeah.
So that's next week. Until then, stay sweaty, my friends.
And don't forget to shower.
Train hard, train smart, and you will get better. We'll see you on the mats, guys.
Guys, I got to say, stay tuned at the end of the music here to hear the unfolding of Joe talking about the British lady, which was just weird.
So how you pulling that off? You guys got to be messing with me.
That was actually a pretty good one. I thought it would be terrible. But we just pretend like we didn't hear it.
Testing service. After the beep, please record a message. Afterwards, your message will be played back to you.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
All right, my friends, this is Byron from the audio editing room. Going to bring up the speed here. There's a couple parts where I'll jump in and jump out. But this is a prank we pulled on Joe where we did what's called a Skype call test while we were talking with him. And this first part is just us talking about the prank. We did it to each other on accident, Gary and I, before we called Joe. So here's kind of the discovery of the idea of the prank. Here we go. How about this? Here's going to be the prank on Joe. Because it's hard to pull a prank on Joe just because we always, conspire against you. So here's what we'll do. We'll call Joe, and I'll also immediately call the Skype call test, and it'll you know what? So it's the Skype call test is you just call Skype and say play a message after the call, and then you record your own message, and then I'll play it back to you. And if you can hear it, it's working. If you can't, then you're messed up, and we'll just add that to the call and see how Joe reacts.
And then we'll blame it on him.
Yeah, like you didn't just call us and Skype testing service? This is us calling Joe, and he immediately thinks something is wrong with his computer and bails on us. I don't know if it's calling Joe or not.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hello,
hey,
welcome to Skype
Joe.
call testing service.
Oh,
after the beep, please
Joe.
record a message.
Can you hear us,
Afterwards,
Joe?
your message will be played back to you.
He hung
I don't
up.
think he's there.
He hung up.
It's not there.
It said he dropped him. Let's do that again.
It was some lady from England. Let's just keep calling him with it.
All right, calling Joe here. All right, guys, getting ready to hit the callback button for Joe. And this is kind of funny because he starts troubleshooting and trying to figure out the problem. Except there is no problem, except for his co-hosts are the problems. I don't hear it ringing. Usually you hear it ring.
Hello, Joe.
Did it go through?
Hello, welcome to Skype call testing service.
For some reason, when
After
you're
the
calling
beep,
me, it's
please
a group
record a
call,
message.
and it's got the
your message will
echo
be played back
test
to
call
you.
on it, too. Can you guys hear that?
What are you
No.
hearing?
It's got the echo, the test call on it, too. You guys call me, and as soon as I answer, it says, hello, welcome to Skype echo test.
Seriously?
Yeah, it's gone now, but it still says, so it says I'm in a group text.
So here's what just happened, guys. Joe explained the problem, but as he was explaining the problem, Skype was recording his words just to play back to him to make sure his microphone and headsets are set up correctly. So now we're going to hear the playback that Joe just explained. So it's a bit of a repeat, and we're going to talk over it, but it adds to the frustration level that Joe's experiencing. So enjoy. Where do you hear it?
It's got the echo, the test call on it too. You guys call me, and as soon as I answer, it says, "Hello, welcome to Skype Echo."
Yeah, I hear myself
Seriously?
on there.
Yeah, it's gone now, but
Explain
it still says.
Joe, you just said this a minute ago.
If you are able to hear your own voice, then you have configured Skype correctly. If you hear this message, but not your own voice,
What is
then
this?
something
Joe?
is wrong
You
with
guys
your
there?
audio recording
I
settings.
can't hear you.
Please check your
Anybody there?
microphone and
I'm here.
microphone
Gary,
settings.
can you hear
Or
me?
visit skype.com
Hey, can you hear
for
me?
You,
more
Byron.
help. Thank
Okay,
you for
Byron.
using the Skype call
Is
testing
Joe there? I
service.
hear you,
Goodbye.
Byron.
I don't know. It says
Hey,
he's
can you
here.
hear me?
There's Joe now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know why, but when you call me, it comes up as a 4-person group call.
That sounds
and
fantastic.
The echo test call is part of the group, and it says, "Hello, welcome to," and then we talk for a minute, and then it plays it back.
It sounds like you're explaining this for the third time.
Echo test.
It's
They're
an
seeing
echo
if there's an
test?
Echo? They're seeing if there's an echo.
No,
Echo.
It's the service for Skype where you call and test your call.
That's
Oh,
weird.
okay.
Oh.
Yeah, I've done that before.
Yeah,
I know.
so somehow it's tied into this phone call.
Hello,
How the
welcome to
hell-
Skype call
Oh my
testing
God.
How
service.
does that?
After the beep, please record a message.
How does-
Afterwards, your message will be played back to you.
Are
Gary.
you hearing it, Byron? I'm not hearing it.
I think it's hung
I wonder
up.
if we should call back.
Call back.
Call back to
'Cause
what?
I don't hear it.
Joe dropped.
I'm not hearing it. Joe?
Joe dropped
I
the
think I
call.
wonder if we should
I'm gonna call right
back.
now.
Joe.
Call back.
I'm calling him.
back to
He's already
what-
dropped.
If you are able to hear your own voice, then you
This
have
is maddening.
configured Skype
Anything.
correctly.
It is
If you
perfect.
hear
He's
this
gone
message,
right now,
but
Gary.
not your own voice, then something is wrong with your audio recording settings. Please check your microphone and
This might be
microphone
one of the best
settings,
pranks
or
ever.
visit skype.com for
This-
more help.
I thought it'd be
Thank you for using
terrible,
the Skype
but it's
call
actually
testing
not
service.
bad.
Goodbye.
You want to tell him or not tell him?
No, we ain't gonna tell him.
Okay.
See if he listens to it. Should we hit it and join it in the middle,
Okay.
like in the middle of the
Well, during the audio
like
book,
when we
we'll
go
just hit the
break?
button.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
he's calling me now.
he's calling.
There he is. Is he
Hey,
back?
can you guys hear me?
Okay.
Yeah.
We're ready to rock
I
and roll.
called you that time.
Okay.
Okay, I don't-
That put us through.
Do you hear that weird thing again?
No,
I don't hear it echoing either. It doesn't
All
say
right.
anything about Skype being on here.
no, but when you call me, it says that there's 3 other people on the line, and Skype test calling is one of them. I don't know why.
Oh, it's that English lady or British lady, huh?
Exactly.
Oh,
And then
well.
she keeps repeating her little spiel.
Yeah, remember we used to do that when we first started to see if
See if it's
we
working.
test out Skype before we ever started. Like it was like what we used to do on like the first 3 episodes, 4 or 5 episodes or whatever.
All right, guys, this next part is great, but I think my favorite part, Joe gives his theory on why the Skype call testing is part of this call, which tells me that the prank is in full effect. He's got no real idea what's happening, and we haven't even started to record the show yet, so we definitely added some time into how long it's taken to record this episode. But we got him good and frustrated, so here is Joe's theory about what is happening.
Well, I still do it because
I do it too.
completely reset up my gear from work to home, so I still do it. And I wanted to say that maybe last time you guys called me, I was still in the middle of doing that, and I answered, and so now she's just a part of our she's part of our group now.
Part of the show.
Did you?
All right, this brings us to the last part of the prank. You might notice that there was not a audiobook for anybody to talk about, a fake audiobook. That's because it got cut out and edited into this section. So we give Joe his fake topic for his audiobook, and soon after that, I hit the Skype call test lady. She comes back in, and he doesn't understand what's happening. He kind of shuts down and quits talking to us. And then we mock him for not having any content for his audiobook. So it's kind of a win-win, and he's frustrated about this whole situation. This week, guys, good news, Gary.
What's the good news, Byron?
Joe has an audiobook coming out, and it's going to be perfect for everybody.
What's it about, Joe?
Joe's audiobook is Managing Expectations. Lessons learned for BJJ from my dating life. And I guess the big part of Joe's dating life was he had to help manage expectations, because you gotta help them manage that. Otherwise, they're gonna have a terrible time if they expect to have a great time. So, Joe, how important is it to manage your expectations during the mat time?
Well, let me say, first of all, that I did draw these lessons from my dating life, and that was the most difficult part of the book. Was my dating life was a long time ago. I've been married for 20-some-odd years, closing in on 30 in a few years. So but
you have good, you're a success story. So
Hello,
people are.
welcome to Skype call testing service. After
So
the
it's
beep,
definitely going to
please
help you
record
out
a
there, Joe.
message. Afterwards, your message will be played.
you're not
going to
believe it, guys, but the Echo lady just started talking to me.
Well, I think you're going insane, Joe. We can't
hear an echo.
Well, I don't hear an echo at all. So that little part was just recorded by Skype, and now it's going to get played back, and we're going to act like we hear this part.
Lady just started talking to me.
Did you really hear it?
I think you're going insane, Joe.
Joe, you need to set different
If you are able to hear your own voice, then you have configured Skype correctly. If you hear this message, but not your own voice,
what's your
then
audiobook
something is
about
wrong
there?
with your audio recording settings. Please check
the
your
audiobook's about
microphone
his
and
dating.
microphone settings.
Joe, let's
or
hear a
visit
little bit about your dating
skype.com
stories.
for more
Did you
help.
date a British
Thank you
lady?
for using the Skype call testing service. Goodbye.
Are you guys
Joe
telling
there?
me you didn't just hear that?
Hear what?
Okay, not all audiobooks have content with them. Joe's kind of a little bit hung up on coming up with ideas. That's fine. Like he said, his dating life didn't have a lot of material to work with, and it was a while ago. But Joe's early on in the stages of developing this book. So, Joe, good luck with the book. And you seem to...
Maybe we could talk about it next week when you don't see so flabbergasted.
You talk about imaginary people. Is that part of the dating life?
Well,
I think you've been choked out too many times, Joe.
So after the show, we informed Joe that we've been messing with him, and here was his response.
Man, something's wrong with my audio settings.
We just kept trying to talk over it, pretend like nothing happened.
Oh, that was a good one.
And kudos to anybody who could listen to all of the Skype interruptions from her. I'm literally just adding her to the phone call and standing back and watching it unfold. It's a little hard to listen to because it does repeat, and we do talk over her. But anybody who got through the whole little thing at the end here, congratulations. We'll catch you next week. Yep, so that'll be at the end of the episode. That was far better than I thought it would be.
Me too. We didn't even plan it really. Just like, hey, let's just throw this and see what happens. Like we never even. So we just kept talking and pretend like we didn't hear anything. And I was like, boy, I think Joe's actually thinks maybe we didn't hear it.
And then, I waited right till the audiobook started. And I'm like, I'm doing it now.
Yeah.
Oh, that was good. That was good.
And then we mocked you for not having an audiobook topic or audiobook content because you were so distracted.
I know, right?
Maybe you won't be so flabbergasted next week.